Bluetooth mode. Connected.
Hello and welcome back, and that's right, today we're talking about this, the Beelink EX Mate Pro. This is a new DAS box. That's right, direct attached storage, otherwise known as going local. This is a storage device, but it's also a docking station. It is supporting USB4v2, otherwise known as Thunderbolt 5, otherwise known as 80 gigabits per second. These are different conventions, but ultimately this is challenging an ever-growing market of direct attached storage that's taken advantage of the affordability and accessibility of high-performance local storage. However, although I have talked a lot about direct attached storage devices over the last few weeks, and particularly those taking advantage of this greater generation of USB 4, I will say this thing is chuffing incredible with the value proposition. Now, I'm going to start off by saying what the price is. It's $199. So what do you get for 199 knicker these days? Well, this gets you a 4x M.2 NVMe storage solution, and we'll talk about the architecture later. It's also got, on the rear there, a 2.5 gigabit network port. It's also got an HDMI output. It also has USB 2 and USB 3. It's also got USB4v2 pass-through, which means that not only do you directly attach your Mac or Windows system via USB4v2 into this, supporting older generations as well, but you can pass through and attach another device, whether that is you're going to daisy chain these storage devices or adding an eGPU, an external graphics card, or whatever. On top of that, it also supplies power to the connected device. On top of that, it has audio in and out. On top of that, it also supports
Bluetooth mode,
as well as
PC mode.
It is multifunctional in its deployment. This is a USB 4v2 80 gig docking station for $199 with 4 Gen 4 NVMe slots inside. What the actual what? Also, and it's weird that I have to go around a compliment about this, the $199 not only includes all the cables and a carry case, but also this isn't going on crowdfunding. It isn't going limited regional run. It's available right now on their own website and third-party sites, and it's not going to crowdfunding. I mean, most brands, given they don't have a huge history in the world of DAS, I'd almost let them off if they went to crowdfunding. But again, this thing is incredible in what they've done and achieved at this price point. And the more astute of you may have noticed, during the whole course of this, I've been running speed tests there in the background on multiple of the SSDs at once. I'm just going to restart that Atto disk benchmark there. Each one of the M.2 NVMe's inside is not Gen 4 times 4. Okay, so again, you are having throttles to all 4 of those, but it's going down to Gen 4 times 1. That gives each one of those M.2 slots inside a 20 gigabit per second potential bandwidth up and down. How did that translate in real terms? Again, almost certainly you've been seeing that there running in the background until throttle, of course, hams in as you're constantly hammering drives and oversaturating their cache. But I saw performance numbers there across different speed tests with AJA, with Blackmagic and Atto and Crystal Disk. I saw performance numbers of around 1.3 gigabytes per second to 1.4 in terms of write, and in terms of sequential read, I saw 1.6 to 1.7. That meant that each of those M.2 NVMe's not only was largely saturating what it could in terms of the Gen 4 times 1 lane each, but crucially, all of them running at the same time did not fully saturate the 80 gigabits per second external connection of the USB 4v2 Type-C connection on the rear. But it doesn't stop there, because alongside that, it also runs that HDMI output via the same single connection, that same USB Type-C connection that is powering this MacBook Pro here. There's an M4 variation 2025 here on the table. At the same time as that, I also had HDMI pass-through happening in real time, all of it via the single connection. And then, as mentioned, the 2.5 gigabit network port. Attaching this also gave me the ability to add 2.5 gig to this docking station here. The result being, I connected this to an Acer Store NAS that had a few SSDs inside with a 2.5 gig connection, and boom, I saw saturation of a 2.5 gig NIC over the network there. Again, all happening via that single USB cable connecting it to the device. And in terms of power, and I will talk about power consumption later on, you may also have noticed This device has direct input with a 2-port kettle connector. The PSU is inside. It's got a 140 watt PSU inside while all of this is going on. And don't you worry, we're going to talk about thermals later. Also, some of you might be wondering about the noise of the fan that's inside, because underneath here it is just one whole solid heatsink inside there. Indeed, all 4 of the M.2 NVMe's directly attached via attached thermal pads inside, with the top of the SSDs touching the inside there. So again, you can't really use SSDs that have got a heatsink pre-attached, and also the underside of those SSDs. If you've got a 2-sided SSD, and NAND is less of a temperature issue than a controller, arguably, still nonetheless, just know that they're going in a slightly unconventional fashion. But that said, as I say, inside, all of that's going on with the PSU inside there, and we've had this running now for what? 5-6 minutes since the start of this video. The fans, let's bring the mic closer. They ain't bad. It is not a noisy device, and I'm going to continue to leave that running throughout the course of this video just to show you that, you know, the temperature of those SSDs that we'll talk about later on and the thermals versus that of the fan are bloody manageable for such a compact device. Also, and I nearly skipped over this, again, I already touched on the fact that it includes the cables and a carry case, a little divider there inside. The quality of the cables is really nice. They've gone for those nylon cables, even with the HDMI included cable. The power cable, the USB4v2 80 gig cable, all of them are these nice fabricy nylon cable coated options there, and they're all a decent length as well. At $199, it is sort of insane what is being included here. That said, you can't have something like this without compromise. So let's talk about some slightly less nice stuff. Number one, that front-mounted USB only supplies 15 watts via that USB4v2. The rear is the one where all of that power that's going through to power this laptop. The one on the front there that you can use for eGPU docks and more, they're going to need their own power. 15 watts is just simply not enough to keep things afloat for the most part. Also, although the device supports both
Bluetooth mode,
and
PC mode,
it's worth highlighting that there are certain limits to what you can do with both of them simultaneously. You are able to have the device being directly accessed and simultaneously having the Bluetooth mode enabled, so you can synchronize it with a phone. I'll give you an example now. And that also extends to if you want to use this, the internal mic and the external speaker, if you want to use this for conference calling. And again, we've got an example of that later on. But you can't use the Bluetooth for file transfer, which is a real shame. And I'm sure architecturally there are reasons for that and complexity. But unfortunately, it means that even though you've got a whole amount of storage here and connectivity, you can't use Bluetooth to file transfer. That is really dedicated just to the USB Type-C output of the connected device in PC mode. But let's talk about the multifunctionality of this device. Again, there's a microphone for capturing audio, using it for team speaking and stuff like that and conference calls. But there's also that rear mounted speaker there to output, whether that is you're using the Bluetooth or you're going to be utilizing the connected PC device. So again, if you're going to be using Teams and stuff like that, or you're using it to just capture a call. For a few examples of that, I've ran a few different tests. Let's go through them now. Right, so time for the sound check on this, just to see if that mic's actually any good. So there we go. Right now I'm talking through a DJI mic. As you can see, it's all paired up and you're listening to it right now from a distance. So I'm going to turn it off while I'm in the middle of talking to give you some idea about the sound difference. So that should have kicked in about now. So this is the natural volume that you're hearing through the mic. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut off the sound from the mic in a moment, and then you're only going to hear the sound recording coming through from that. So let's start that recording. So that should be now recording through the laptop. So I'm just going to cut off the camera recording now. And now hopefully you can only hear me through the Beelink microphone. So while I'm talking, hopefully you get some idea of what it sounds like. I'm a distance of, I'd say, somewhere in the region of somewhere between 1 to 2 feet off this mic. It's going to get real close. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to move over here like I'm being really relaxed and just talking to someone on the phone. Hey, how's it going? Have you crunched those numbers yet? And other things that tossers say. Yep, so testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to move. Slightly off camera. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. So I would argue that was a pretty reasonable distance. Hopefully that is all still being rigged there on the microphone. Yes, it is. But yeah, so that's the sound check. So, you know, fingers crossed that came out good, right?
Hello, baby.
Hey, baby. Well, I'm really glad you put that on the video. That's in it now. Now everyone in the world knows you call me baby. Just a quick one, really. I've got this Beelink Mate Pro on my desk, and I'm testing out the Bluetooth and the audio in and out. So I just wanted to call a few people. How am I coming across? How clear would you say?
Normal, clear, perfect, yeah.
Would you
There's
say
nothing wrong
it's
with it.
better or worse or the same than if I had my phone on loudspeaker like the teens do these days, which I'm totally okay with?
I think it's better than loudspeaker.
Okay, you're coming across clear as a whistle.
Hey man,
Hey buddy, how's it going?
I'm alright, how are you?
I'm jolly good. I mean, again, I'm calling you in the middle of a video, so you're involved in another one. Sorry about that. I'm just
Okay.
testing out
No,
this.
you're alright.
How was the sound quality coming through?
Yeah, alright. I mean, you're talking to me through my Bluetooth in my van, so there's that. But you're coming through clear.
Oh, cool. I mean, again, this thing's a speaker that's sitting on my desk, so it's audio in and out. I'm about, I don't know, about 1.5 foot, maybe 2 feet away from the mic. Realistically, I'm never going to be recording a YouTube video with this, but I will say, for $199, and I'm sorry to keep banging on about the price, as a docking station in 2026 with 80 gig USB 4 connecting to it here, this is really, really impressive what you're getting rolled in here and the sheer weight of capabilities. But let's talk about thermals and power consumption. Now, it's worth highlighting power consumption is going to vary depending on your own deployment scenario. I went for 4 different setups. I went with the system with the SSDs inside, but no active mounting of any of the SSDs. And for that, I saw the device go as low as 10 to 11 watts. That's with no connected clients. That's not charging the laptop. That's it running off of just mains power, not powering anything else. So again, 10 to 11 watts sitting completely and ready to go. Now, if you wanted all 4 SSDs to be mounted but not accessed with 4 M.2 NVMe's at 1 terabyte each, I saw it only go up to around 12.4 to 12.6 watts. So again, a tiny increase of around 1 to 2 watts compared with the drives completely unmounted. What about during access? With all 4 SSDs being accessed, but crucially the device not powering a laptop, not powering big monitors or anything like that, the power went up to 16.5 to 17 watts. So again, very respectable numbers, and particularly given the overhead that Thunderbolt 5 / USB4v2 has, it's still a very good number. But what about having all 4 SSDs being accessed, having a monitor connected via the HDMI, an active 2.5 gig network connection, and a USB drive connected, and powering my Mac? What about that? Well, then it went to 42 to 43 watts. And realistically, that's fantastic for such a compact docking station. And again, the fan didn't ramp up. There was no audible noticeable problems. But what about temperatures? So first, let's talk about the thermals inside. More precisely, let's talk about the thermals of the M.2 NVMe's. At the time of recording right now, I can see that the mic there, the camera's been running for well over 10 minutes. And I'll say right now that during my own testing, I did a sustained 5-minute test of the SSDs, and I wanted to monitor what the onboard controllers for those SSDs would report. Now, as you can see from the monitor there on screen, I will say the disk tool I was using there, for some reason, would not show the individual disks being accessed when they clearly were. You can tell at the bottom of the screen there, at the bottom left, well, during the activities of each of the individual applications there. But still, in terms of temps, I would say the SSDs that were the closest to the PSU were the ones that saw the highest temps. So the ones that were the closest, they started out before the 5 minutes of sustained testing at around 40 to 41 degrees. And by the end of the 5-minute testing there, they went to 47 to 48 degrees. Now, the other SSDs that were further away from the PSU, those are a lot more respectable. They ended up sitting around 42 to 44 degrees. So again, lovely stuff. And it showed that that internal heatsink structure the fan built through was doing its job. But let's talk about the external thermals. We got our thermal imaging camera out and did 2 different test scenarios. Hope you can see both of them there on screen. The one on the left should be the 24-hour one. This was when I had the system in operation, on off for about 24 hours. It was accessed, I think, half a dozen times, but it was really just to see what the running temps would be. And on the top right, hopefully you can see the system during that sustained performance there. And that was after about 12, 13 minutes at that point. So, and again, that was sustained across each of the individual SSDs with repeated read-write testing of 1 GB file sizes. And again, those were synthetic tests. The result was, after the 24-hour comparative idle period, we saw the external casing sit around 29 to 30 degrees on the sides, around 31 degrees on the front, 26 degrees on the top around the fan, the ports area around 24 degrees, and underneath, where it's all being drawn through, it was around 35 to 37 degrees. So again, very good numbers. Now, in terms of when it was that sustained performance, obviously we're anticipating it to be higher. The highest was underneath. The underneath was around 60 to 61 degrees there. Obviously, I probably wouldn't recommend hitting drives like this constantly in this fashion 24/7, but at the very least 60 to 61 is pretty much where I would have liked to have seen it. Anything higher than about 65, 67, I would have been a bit concerned. The sides sat around 46 to 47, the top around 42 to 44 degrees, and the rear ports around 51 to 52 degrees. Again, really respectable numbers in both the 24 hours and the sustained performance testing there. And that's really it. Again, I feel like I'm being a tremendous broken record here, but you're getting a docking station here with own individual power on, a multitude of ports and connections for 2026, audio in and out capabilities, Bluetooth connectivity there, 4 M.2 NVMe's, good running temps, good power temps, the ability for volume up and down and turning the mic off and pressing play if you choose, connectivity with third-party devices, a docking station you can chuck in other, and it's absurd what you are getting at that. I know this is overwhelmingly positive, but I've got to call what I see what it is. This is the best USB 4 docking station right now. If they can scale this up, if they can make a beefier one that's got 10 gig on it, then I genuinely believe there are bigger, better players in the docking station and storage scene that are suddenly going to feel tremendously threatened. Think right now, what would OWC charge for this? What would Atto charge for this? What would Promise charge for this? $199? Are they going to meet this price? $999? You've seen the Echo Sonnet. You've seen a lot of these things. Again, really, really impressed by this. You get what you pay for here, and what you're getting is a tremendous amount of value. There's links below to get hold of one of these for yourself. Again, links below as well to the written article as soon as it's done. Again, unsurprisingly, Beelink supplied me this, but they're not paying for this. They've just supplied, they didn't even supply the SSDs, the time, the energy, the Mac, just the unit. So again, if that influences how you feel about this review, let me know. But it's not sponsored in my opinion, and they've supplied it and they're seeing it at the same time you are. But thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be really hitting this hard because there must be something wrong with this that I'm not seeing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.